develop curriculum together, presentations
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Hey, Janae, you guys, and that's one of
Hey,
her greater girls
Janae,
right there.
right there.
And so I had over the years shared with the women that were sitting at the table with her various things that she had, and teachers, thank you very much, Kelly.
Hey, teachers count too.
Oh, teachers count a whole lot.
I couldn't do my work without you, so
I
appreciate you. All the educators out there, love you.
Oh, we
mean it.
Mean it. We absolutely love teachers.
Yes.
Hey, Adrian.
Yeah.
You guys, listen, if you have a greater girl, a greater teen in your life, I want you to share this. If you know a mom with a greater girl, with a greater teen, a dad with a greater girl, greater teen, hey, Lakeitha, I would love for you to share this, because we're about to share some keys that are helping, because June is a parenting coach. And not only that, before we get started, hi, Carla, I would love for you to talk a little bit about your mentoring organization. Now, I have to just say this one thing and we'll jump into it. When June and I were talking today, you want to know how long this woman has been mentoring kids, mentoring girls, mentoring teens. When we talked today,
I was 15 when I started.
That's right. She was a teen herself when she got started. But listen, let me tell you, one of the teens that she mentored has a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, wow.
Oh, that was wow to me.
Oh,
when she said to me, like, it's on my community page, and she said, I miss your voice. And I've mentored so many girls over the course of 20 years. And she was like, I miss your voice.
Yes.
And you should do this more often, go live. And then she reminded me that I had mentored her. And I said, oh, wow, how's life going? And she's like, great. I said, you got children, married? And she's like, yeah, I have a 16-year-old. I said, what? Hold on.
How in the world?
Hold
how does that happen? That the person that you're mentoring now has a whole 16-year-old.
And she said, I need to talk to you. And I was like, well, let's go to, what do I do?
Let's go to lunch. Right? Absolutely. Let's go to lunch. Hey, Ashley. So that's what tonight is all about.
Yeah.
I would love for you. You've been mentoring girls. You've been mentoring teens.
Yeah.
You've been working with this population for so long. Why don't we just jump into it?
Sure.
What are some of the things that you've learned along the way that you think could benefit our audience?
Oh my gosh. So I want to really start with the girls. How I love the girls. Can I start with how I got started with that?
Yes, please.
Okay, so
please
how I got started mentoring teen girls, I actually started doing it at home first. You know, charity begins at home, and then it kind of spreads abroad.
Yeah.
Spreads abroad. So I have 3 girls in my house. Well, they're no longer in my house. They're all adults
big girls now.
They're big girls now.
Right.
So I have 5 children. And I learned things off the cuff. And one of my goals is that girls, particularly teen girls, did not have to learn things off the cuff. So what I wanted to do is give back out of my own personal pain from being pregnant at 17, that high school year, when everybody's planning for college. I wasn't. So I didn't have that opportunity back then at that time. It just wasn't right for me. So pregnant at 17, married at 18, divorced at 22 with 3 children, and had been through a very bad marriage, domestic abuse, and just a whole lot of verbal. It's just a whole lot of things. And so out of that, out of all of that pain, it took me years to get through all of that pain and weave through all of that. So once I got past my wilderness experience, I was like, okay, I got to go back and find the June Evans. I wasn't looking for the girl who had it all together. I wasn't looking for the top student, you know, in the class. I was looking for the greater girls that didn't realize that they were great, that hadn't found their purpose in life, didn't really feel like they fit sometimes. So I wanted to go back and find her. And what I thought about Alisa, I was a great person. Like, I was a really good friend. I was smart. You know, I just had a misstep. And that misstep came because we were not having greater conversation. So that's what we're about to do. So out of that...
and can I just say something else real quick?
Let's go do that.
Okay, so I just want to say that one of the reasons why, Sally, so good to have you here. One of the reasons why I love Greater Conversations and I love the opportunity to share in this way is because I don't think enough people are talking, I think constantly, we talk at each other, even with all our social media, but we're not truly talking in terms of having a conversation.
Right.
So what are the kinds of things that we need to be talking about?
Okay, so I'm going to start with the girls first. The conversations that must happen before their 18th birthday, before their 10th birthday,
right,
before their 5th portion, is number one is unconditional love. We really need to show them,
right,
and we need to talk to them about how to love people themselves. Number one, unconditionally, but we have to show them that through example. If I put a group of girls in the room, there are two topics that they always want to talk about. What do you think the first one is?
Sex.
It's actually number two.
Okay.
The first one is their relationship with their mothers.
Wow.
I always ask, kind of start the conversation as, when they're talking to me about various things, I said, so what does your mom think about this? Me and my mom don't talk. Mm-hmm. You don't, what do you mean you don't talk? We don't talk. Like, we don't have a relationship. We don't talk. So you're asking me questions that you really should be talking to your mom about, which is okay. We can go talk to your mom together, but I'm not your parent. So
I'm your mentor.
I'm your mentor.
Right.
So I always have to explain to them, I'm not here to replace your parent, but I really, honestly, girls need to know from their moms that they are unconditionally loved. And sometimes, when they're babies, of course we love them because we get to dress them up the way we want to do, right?
Right.
And they're picture perfect, right? Because we're in control at that time. And then as they begin to grow older, we kind of lose that control, or they want to kind of let go, and we don't want to let them go.
Right.
And I think where the bumping of heads come, if we want to say that, is because really they're a lot like us, right?
That's right.
They're more like us.
Right.
And so they want that freedom to be free.
Right.
And we don't know how to allow that. So just having those conversations of unconditional love, or just having a conversation, not being, we all hate bosses, right? We'll take it this way. We all really strongly dislike a boss who is, just kind of overbearing,
argumentative,
all of that.
Right.
We really want a boss that is more. We don't want a micromanager. And so, as they become in teens, we still have this kind of dictatorship: do as I say, not as I do. But then we haven't told them how to do what you say sometimes, right? So we have to have those conversations in a coaching style way. Have you noticed
instead of a domineering kind of way?
And instead of just do it because I told you.
Right.
Well,
I told you to do it.
But I told you to do it. But maybe I don't know why you told me to do it.
Right.
So how about explaining, here's the reason that I feel that we should be doing this, or you should do this, and sit down and have a conversation. But I know
a real conversation.
A real conversation.
Right.
And let me tell you who I love the most. All these people on this Facebook, that you're a mother. I appreciate you.
Right.
You are doing the best that you know how.
Hey, Stephanie.
Hey, yeah. We appreciate you. You're doing the best you know how. Maybe you own this because you want to have maybe a better relationship, because we can all get better at what we do.
Right.
But really, if you stop and listen to teens, who they really like on any high school campus, who do you think that is?
Who do they really like on a high school campus?
In an administrative mode.
Their teachers, their coaches, their coaches.
A coach all really soft spoken and all that all the time? No. But the reason they really care about their coaches is because they think their coaches care about them.
See, one of our and I missed it because it's moving so quickly, said it's the delivery.
It's the
Isn't
delivery.
that right?
It's the
so
delivery.
It's the delivery, it's the approach. And Kelly, thank you for your comment a moment ago when you talked about just being thankful for being reminded. What I hear you saying is that we need to do a better job when we're raising greater girls and frankly greater teens, period. Of creating a safe place.
They have to have a safe
place.
There was something out there called safe conversations. And so they have to know that they can come and have a conversation with you. And sometimes you say about anything, oh, you can tell me anything. Can they?
Right.
Can they? Are you
right?
Are you ready for anything?
Right.
Are you ready? Are you really ready for anything? Because they're so full when they come into a Tuesday meeting. When I go to my clubs, I mentor over 100 girls. I don't from middle school to high school to collegiate.
Right.
When we have a meeting, I don't have to remind them. Like, I have a text right here about our meeting for tomorrow. And she was like, Miss Evans, I can't be here. And this is the reason I can't. And it's okay if I be late for the meeting. When you find that teenage girls that want to spend time with you, it's a reason for that. So it's coaching. If we can just learn to kind of put on a mom coaching style hat, that means, yes, we still have these expectations.
Right. So we didn't say anything about discipline going out the door.
Discipline going out the
Right.
door.
We didn't say anything about expectations going out the door.
Absolutely not.
The only thing we said is we want in the door, and thank you, my niece, for talking about truth, because I think this is that, and I love you too, Wendy, is that we create this safe place where we can have real conversation.
Real conversation.
Right? Not just this domineering, do what I say, and I know, listen, a bunch of us were raised that way. I know, but it's a new day. We've got, hey, Alicia, we've got new sheriffs are in town. And here's the thing that I hear too when I hear you talking about this, is that our greater girls are talking to somebody. I just want them talking to you.
Yeah, what I want them to do is talk to you. So I always lead girls with these types of some conversations back to their parents. Now, I always tell them, I don't keep secrets.
Right.
I want y'all to know this as a mentor.
I
do not keep those type of, you having a little problem at school, we gonna walk through it. We can walk through that. You know, somebody looked to you side eye, we can walk through that. You tell me you got a knife to your mother's throat, we gonna have, somebody has to have a conversation.
Right. Or if
you tell me if there's any type of abuse, I have to. I'm required to report that. So when I start out, I start out this way. I have to tell you something. I don't keep secrets. So if you really don't want me to know, you don't want your parents to know some things, you may not want to tell me, because I don't keep secrets. But you know what I get? I get secrets. That sometimes I have to take those girls, I give them about 5 days to go and disclose to their parents what you just disclosed to me.
I have heard you say this.
I give them 5 days. I said, I'll give you 5 days to go tell your mom or your dad what you just told me. Okay, and then what? I'm not going to tell you then what, but I give you 5 days. And how I know that you're going to tell them is because they're going to call me. Because you're going to tell them you had this conversation with me, and therefore they're going to call me. If they don't call me, then you'll see in 5 days. So, case in point, I had a young girl in one of my clubs, and smart, bright, made a decision that she was going to have sex. So we're going to talk about sex in a minute. So y'all might as well get used to my language, because we're going to talk about this.
We are going to talk about sex.
So she had sex over the spring break, right? And she was very bright. She was a junior in high school, and she went and told, I had a speaker to come in, and she just shared it with the speaker. Well, of course, what did the speaker do? Share it with me. I said, okay, I'm going to give her 7 days to come and tell me that, right? Long story short, she didn't. So I approached her. And then she said, of course, we had that conversation. I said, so now guess what we have to do? And she said, well, I said, we have to tell your mom. No, Miss Evans, no. I'm like, oh, no. You would not fail on my watch.
Right.
Your mother has a right to know if your arm was broken in my presence. Your mother has a right to know if you made a bad decision in my presence. And your mother has the right to know. If you're going to do adulting things, we're going to have adult conversations. But I'm going to give you 5 good old days.
Right.
To go and tell your mother. So
or
I just said I'm gonna give you 5 good old days.
Right.
Day 6. It was a Sunday afternoon. I said, I haven't had no phone call. I have a little roster. I run that little doorbell. She ran out of Miss Evans. I said, is your mom home, baby? That's what.
Right.
So mom came to the door and she looked at me and I said, you wanna go to Starbucks with me?
We need to have a greater conversation.
And we went to Starbucks. So, long story short, it took her 2 hours. She cried, and I just kept holding her hand. I said, it's going to be all right.
Right.
And mom was just looking like, what is it? You can tell me anything. And the reason I share that story, because it was the mother's responsibility of how she was going to handle what her daughter has just told her. Right. If our daughter is hurt, we're going to take them to see a doctor. If we know that their lifestyle has changed, we need to be a part of that change. I don't make those decisions. You have a lot of organizations out there that will help girls make decisions without parental consent. And that's what every parent needs to know. So if they're not talking to you, they're talking to
somebody.
someone.
Okay, yeah, Tanya, you got it. So 5 good old days. All right, now I know some of you who are on this and some of you who will watch the replay, you may not have a greater girl, but you may be a greater auntie like me. Before I started having children, I had lots of children. I've got lots of nieces, lots of nephews. I love kids. Kids have always been a part of my life. So these kinds of tips I think are so helpful for those of you who are mentoring kids. If you're in the life of a kid, in the face of a kid, have a kid's heart, the kinds of things that June just shared, making sure that they know that we're a safe place, but not a free place, in that you can say just anything without accountability. I think that that's really helpful. All right, let's get back to our parents, though, and our teachers and our aunties. What are some other things that we need to know about raising greater girls?
So know that they're stressed. They stress like we stress. So that whole, time you come in the door, when we come home, who wants to come home and straight go to the kitchen and start, well, I don't cook. But who wants to, I have a great husband. I have a greater husband. So anyway, so who wants to just come home and immediately not be able to just chill?
Right.
Just take a moment to breathe. Everybody who has a child know that when we were coming up, when those babies were little, we couldn't even hide in the restroom, like in the bathroom. They're going to knock on the door. Okay, so just think about that. Time a child gets in the car, time the child comes in the door, that we have all of these expectations. Have you done this? Go do your homework. You didn't clean up the kitchen. All these, and they haven't had time to debrief their own day. So give them space. Back.
Right.
Give them 50 feet.
Right. So giving them,
give them just a little space.
And the other thing that I really heard you say is that recognizing that the world is moving at such a frenetic pace that kids are under stress, just like we're under stress.
They're under stress.
Like they're not in a bubble. You know what I mean? Yes, Tanya. Yes. They're not in a bubble. They're under stress too. So because they're under stress, and you know what? If you guys don't want to share this publicly, but you know someone who needs this greater conversation, feel free to share it with them in their messenger, because I want to make sure, listen, as we get more information and we're in the information age, let's all do better. You know what I mean? Let's all level up. Let's all take it to the next level. But my point is, and your point is, that our kids are not living in a bubble. They're living in the same stressful world that we're living in.
They're living in for 8 hours. I call it a war zone. If you haven't walked down the halls of a local high school, go past the receptionist desk, please. Just one time. Just kind of walk, but don't walk when it's quiet, when they're in. Walk when they're in the halls. Listen to their conversations. See what's going on. Be in there when there's a fight. Are they running from the fight? They're running to the fight. And you just never know. They have 8 hours. 8 hours. Just like you do 8, they do 8. Your teachers do 8. Your principals do 8. And sometimes we forget that.
Right.
And so when they come home, we say, you haven't done anything all day. What?
Right.
Honey, I have been talked about.
Right.
I have experienced rejection,
peer pressure.
I have been pressured,
jealousy.
Oh, and all of that.
Right. All of that happened in my day, and I don't have the emotional maturity.
It's so bullying is real.
It is real. And here's the thing. Our kid, as much as, well, listen, let me just be honest. I think that there are days that we don't have the emotional maturity to handle the stress of what happened in the day, much less our teen. Okay, that's a good one. Give me another one, June.
So another one, as it relates to a teen girl, can she just know what you do for a living?
Oh.
Like she don't know her purpose because she don't know yours.
Right. Ouch.
Can you just kind of talk to them? You know, they created something one time about take your daughter to work with you, or take your children to work with you. So this is for moms and dads. So when I ask, even adults, I said, so tell me about your parents. Well, they work at SMU. Well, what do they do?
I don't know. Ouch.
So I mean, the parents may own a company. I don't really know what they do. we haven't even had a conversation about how we paying the house
Right.
note and the car notes, and how you having these fabulous vacations
Right.
that you're taking. They have no clue of who you are outside of their mom and dad.
And how can I have a relationship with someone and I don't know who you are?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh, y'all, that's so good. How can I have a relationship
And
with you? A real relationship.
I don't know what they do.
If I don't know you.
I don't know you. I think they work for the government.
Ugh.
What?
What?
What? Are they in the military? Do they work for the Postal Service? Are they at the White House? I mean, what do they do? So just have that
Take the time.
Here's the thing is,
Take the time.
our kids don't know who we are because we're not showing them our scars. We don't really want to have a conversation with our kids about life
Ugh.
because we sometimes are so afraid that we're going to get into a harder, greater conversation.
Right.
So we want to hide that piece.
Oh, wow.
So what I'm saying is, ask your children, do you know what I do? Do you know where I work? Outside of because now they don't have to call you at work, they call you on your cell phone, so they have no clue
Right.
of what
It's
you
not
do
like
and
they're
how you-
calling someone, hearing a voice, hearing a familiar voice,
No.
developing a relationship
No.
with somebody at your job, even if it's just on the phone until they can pass the call to you.
Right. That was
Got
back
it.
in the day.
That was back in the day.
So
That's
now
not today.
they don't know what you do.
Okay, that's a big one. That's a big
That's
one.
a huge one. So a girl really needs to understand purpose. When we're talking about teen girls, I
Right.
have so many adult women that I am coaching and says, I don't know why I'm here. I'm like, okay, you're about 35 now. I'm going to
Right.
need you to find out why we're here. So let's just go through some things.
Right.
And then after you take them through, just finding a little bit more about what they love, what they're passionate about.
Right.
There's so many people. Everyone has a
Right.
purpose. Why are we here? That's the question of the day. That's the question of the hour.
It's the question of a lifetime.
Of a lifetime.
It's
and
why are we
finding
here?
finding that.
Right.
And so some of us, I guess this is going to be another thing, is she really does need to know who she is. And she has to know that she's enough.
Oh. Do you know that
She's
today,
enough.
I mentioned that point last night when we were
Okay.
testing for the show.
Right.
And do you know that someone inboxed me? They inboxed me sometime last night. I got to read it today. And what she talked about was how that point resonated with her. I think the point that I want to make, family, June, is that so much of what our kids are dealing with, very honestly, is what we're dealing with.
Right.
If we're struggling, one of you just said a moment ago that even as adult women, often we're struggling with comparisonitis, right? We're struggling with comparing ourselves. Can you imagine what a teen girl without emotional maturity? And think about it today. When I was coming up, I guess we were comparing ourselves against the girl in the 17 magazine.
That's
that,
what we
that I
were
didn't
comparing
really
ourselves.
look like.
We didn't look like. We didn't have a whole lot of visual.
But it was just the girl in the 17
Right.
magazine.
Right.
But now today, the images are everywhere. It's the girl in social media. It's the girl who gets all the attention in social media, right? And we know often that's not a positive role model.
Right.
My point is that there are so many challenges that our girls face,
Yeah.
and there are so many challenges that we face as adult women.
Mm-hmm.
So for us to minimize their pain as if you're just a kid, it's not a big deal.
Get over it.
Get over it.
We're quick to say,
get
honey,
over it.
that's puppy love. Don't worry about it. She's not talking to you.
But it's big to her.
It's very, very big because the
gosh.
number outside of their parents, and I want parents to hear this, is that your children really love you and they really want you to be a part of their lives.
Right.
They do. They want you to be their primary educator. They want you to be their primary number one supporter.
Right.
They don't really want to get that. When we go and get that sometimes from someone else, it's because we're deficient in that area. So
Right.
we start to look for that somewhere else. But there's nothing wrong with mentorship because it takes a whole, when that coin that phrase, it takes a village.
Right.
It really does
Right.
take a village. My goal in high schools and middle school is that nobody falls between the gap.
Right.
Right? So I always tell, because I'm a minister, I'm a minister as well.
Right.
But my pulpit is different. I'm not on stage at church. I'm not buying for time at church,
And you don't hold a microphone.
I'm not holding a microphone every
Right.
Sunday because I'm not a priest. One of our
You're
pastors
not a
said,
preacher in that way.
I'm not a preacher in that way.
But you sure are a minister.
But I am pastoring 100 girls a year that continue to come back, that stay with me for 4 years and
Right.
graduate and stay with me through college and stay with me through their marriage and stay with me through sometimes a divorce and through their
Right.
childbearing years. So mentorship works. It takes a good mentor. So
And it takes a village.
it takes this whole village. I remember, and we'll dive into that right now. So I remember, realizing that I could not be the only voice in my children's life. So what I always say to parents is find the coolest person that your child adore. You'll know them. They'll call their name often.
Right.
They might like, I want to talk to Auntie Lee.
Right.
And if all they talk about is, I want to talk to Auntie Lee. I know Camille says that all the time. I wanted Auntie Lee. She just Auntie June. I was like, Camille, give her a side eye.
Right.
But she was saying, it's our little niece. We just love
Right,
her.
right,
But she was
right.
like, I want
And
Auntie
big
Lee.
kisses for our niece, Camille.
Camille, we love you. But she wanted Auntie Lee to be in the car with her when she and her mom and
Went to
dad went to college.
Right.
That was important to her. So what does that say to her mom and dad? That Lee is a powerful voice in their life. So there's always a powerful voice
Right.
outside of your voice. Don't get jealous of that.
Oh, that's good too, June.
Don't be
That
upset
is not the
by
person
that.
to be jealous of.
That's not the person to be
Right.
jealous
That's
of.
good.
So, but
That's good.
but we don't just let them go out there and do like a free fall though.
Right,
We need
right,
to
right.
make sure that we know those who labor among our children.
Right.
So if
Right.
if they're talking about somebody all the time, you then go build a relationship with
that person.
and then you make sure core values
Right.
are the same.
Are aligned with your family
You
core
have to
values.
be in line because
Right.
what I had to do is when we started and my girls started, they started dating and liking guys. So I had to go get my cousin because I knew
Right.
he knew my core values and he was gonna lead them right back to me.
Right.
So it's like y'all can
Right.
tell me, and they felt like they could tell him everything.
Anything, everything.
They did,
Right,
and you know what
right.
he would do? He did. This is where I learned that from. He would bring them back to me. He said, "Tell your mama what you
Right.
told me."
Right.
And now they felt very comfortable because
Right.
at first they were able to release it to a trusted voice.
Right.
And so he helped calm their fears.
And then built a bridge.
And then build
the bridge back to the
Absolutely.
mama.
That's how we're going to build this
Okay.
we're going to blend this
Now,
generational gap.
June,
What?
June.
What I just
There
said?
is never enough time for a greater conversation. So, June, we have to talk about sex. Okay, just relax.
Relax.
Everybody, relax. But we have to talk about sex.
We do have
Because
to talk about sex.
fortunately, unfortunately, the reality, however you look at it, however you come to this topic, it is a part of our lives. Right? This is a part of our lives. And too often our kids are making bad decisions, are making uninformed decisions because we're not having greater conversations. And so I can say through working with you, because we've developed curriculum together, I can say that some of the things that you teach about sex and teens, sex and young girls, period, are things that I don't hear people saying. Right? I don't hear people saying this. And I think to myself, it's one thing for us to say, don't do it, and kind of leave the conversation there, which is exactly what you're talking about, is that we're giving orders and directives, but we're not talking. But if they had better information, maybe they would make better choices. So I'm just going to leave that as an open door for you to walk in.
So, okay.
What can
We're
we
going to
do different, talk different, help us?
Sexual health conversations begin very young. So we're not going to wait until they're 12, 13, you're late. Somebody's told them something. So you have to start this extremely young.
I need some water on this.
Age appropriate. So when they're about, you have to understand, when children start blending with other children, conversations are being had. So you don't know what's going on in another person's house. You don't know what they're watching. You don't know what their parents are telling them. So you have to make sure that your child knows, number one, the value of your home. That's the first thing I'm going to say to parents.
Know the value of your home.
They have to know the value of your home. What is that? What is your mission? What is your purpose? What is your core values? Your children need to know that. And so you start these conversations very young. You may want to start when someone's pregnant. let's just say somebody's 5 years old and you start talking about the baby that's in the stomach, and you start talking about it age appropriate, and you start telling them it's something that, this is something that happens when two people are married, and this is what mommy and daddy do, and you start having those type of conversations, because in schools it's directive abstinence, period, bottom line. It's not abstinence based. It's like, we're not going to do it. So I have an opportunity to talk about contraceptives, but I have to present them in a different format, in a different way. So I call myself the female Johnny Cochran. Y'all remember Johnny Cochran?
Mm-hmm.
I make my point, so when the conversation is over, they like this with they boo.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the conversation is over, they like,
they're leaning back, right? Because
didn't nobody tell me that.
Because they're hearing things from you
for the first time.
For the very first time.
For the very first time.
Okay.
So we can get started with number one. It's not the talk. It's not the talk. So stop fearing the talk.
Right.
And start the conversation.
Right.
And you start that age appropriately.
Can we just stop there for 1 second?
Yeah,
and I hate to keep interjecting, but I just think what you just said is such a great point.
Okay.
Because the way that this conversation has been presented, or this teaching has been presented to most of us, is that you have a talk.
One talk.
One talk.
One.
And then it's over, right? It's one talk, and then
birds
it's done.
and the bees, and we're not calling body parts. If I can call this an eye,
right.
If I can say I have a brain,
right.
If I can say this is my ear, why can't we call our sexual organs what they are? Can we stop calling them the goods?
Right. So
she don't know what the goods is. What is the goods, Miss Evans?
So we call things what they are.
We need
right?
to call them what they are. They're your reproductive organs. And there's the word reproductive. If you're having sex, you can reproduce.
Right.
They don't understand that, right? So what are my reproductive organs? They don't see them. So because they can't see them, they don't know how to protect them. It is the parents' responsibility to tell your daughters about her reproductive system.
Right.
She needs to know what that looks like.
Age appropriately.
But
have the conversation.
But keep having the conversation. You have to build. No one should be in the nurse's office on a specific day and something new is happening to their body and she has no clue. She's embarrassed. She doesn't know what to do. We have not prepared our girls.
Right. One of our listeners said, be real.
That's
it. Thank you. 2 words, right? Be real. Excellent. Excellent.
Just have that conversation. So, and then, if when you do have that conversation, show your scars. Don't barf up. You don't have to barf up every single thing you've ever done in life.
Right.
But I will say this. I do think that some of our challenges as women about having honest conversations, and dad, is because of some of our sexual secrets that nobody knows but us and God. And that's the way we want to keep it. And we so afraid that if I start having a conversation with my kids, that they're going to ask me. I had a parent that said that they're going to ask me, so Dad, did you have sex? This is what he said to me. That's my personal business. I'm not telling you. I'm just telling you, you don't do it. Well, Jesus showed his scars, y'all. Come on now. Show them your scars. Let them know that you were not perfect. Our former First Lady Michelle Obama just talked about becoming Michelle. Mm-hmm. And some things that she put in there was personal. And Robin said, so why did you feel that was important? Because she wanted people, she don't just want women or girls to just see, oh, she was the First Lady of the United States, so she was perfect. No, I made some mistakes along the way. And so it's okay for parents to show their children their scars. And they just want that much, though. Don't give them a lecture.
Right. Oh, see, okay, so that's really important there too.
Yeah.
Listen, Yolanda said I learned all of this from my auntie. Listen, aunties are so important. Mentors are, that's what you were saying.
Right.
Mentors are so important. So we don't, and I like the way you said it, you know what I mean? We don't go overboard, right? We don't go overboard.
Because it's not the talk. It's the
but
conversation.
We open the door. To real conversation. With some transparency.
Some transparency.
Okay. All right.
Age appropriate.
That's excellent.
And you do have to be prepared for the hard questions. So if you have not dealt whatever that thing that you're hiding, that you think nobody knows but you.
Right.
It's time to deal with that.
Right.
Because you're not going to be able to raise a greater daughter if you yourself is still struggling. You still dealing with guilt.
Right.
And shame yourself. And so we're going to pass that down to our daughter. So for that, we feel we can't have a conversation with her about real life. And then, can I say another thing?
Please.
Can we stop male bashing? That is just not being healthy for our girls. Can we just stop male bashing? I know there are some people that here that may be in the middle of a divorce, or, you know, you have some fathers that are just not in their children's life. I went through that. You know, my first husband wasn't in my children's life, and I had to come to a point that we had a poor marriage, but maybe they could have a good relationship with their dad.
Right.
You know?
And that's so important.
That's so important, because you have to look at that. I remember having to say this years ago to my parents at one time, when they were having marital issues years and years and years ago. And I said to my parents, I said, you guys have marital challenges. We don't have parental issues. He's still my dad. You're still my mom. Y'all got issues. So y'all work through y'all issues, but he still loves me, and you still love me, and don't make me choose sides.
Yes. Yes.
Don't make me choose sides.
Listen, y'all, I know that we're talking about some tough stuff tonight, but this is the kind of thing that people are not talking about. One of our listeners said that, you know, these are the kinds of things that people are afraid of.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, that her parents were afraid. And I think a lot of our parents may have been afraid. But we're living in a new day, and conversation is happening everywhere. Anybody with a Twitter account can have an opinion, okay? So if that be the case, then we've got to start talking more. We've got to start having more greater conversations. Okay, so I'm going to throw in just an abstract fact, and I'm going to throw it in because it absolutely blew my mind. And I felt like if I had known this, if I could have shared this more with others, what a difference it could have made. So one of the things when June and I were developing curriculum for sexual health for teens, one of the things that we found was that the cervix is not fully developed
until they're in their mid-20s.
Did you hear that, family?
So,
okay.
So when I'm having
no, say it again. Say it again.
It's not fully developed. Just like a teen's brain is not fully developed. It's not fully developed. They're making decisions like in their teenage years, and our brains are not even fully developed. And so you have the same thing with your reproductive organs. So
they are not fully developed.
They're not fully developed. And so here's what I tell young guys: you want a sexually transmitted infection? Have sex with a teenage girl. It's a warm moist place. That's where bacteria goes and hide.
And it's
one
open.
More place. And so it's not fully developed. It doesn't start to close until they're in their 20s.
Okay, so it doesn't start to close, right, until you're in your 20s. And so then here's the consequence of that. The consequence of that is that it sets you up when you are adulting, when your body is not an adult, right? It sets you up for sexually transmitted diseases. Right? It sets you up for disease, period. And it predisposes you for disease and for how do I say it? It makes you more receptive. Hi, my precious Donnell. It makes you more it makes it easier. That's the word I'm looking for. It makes it easier for you to get diseases, contract diseases when you've been adulting with a body that's not ready to be an adult. Okay, so
well, but with that, look, can we go on with that? Can we dive into that just a little bit more? HIV is alive and well.
Right.
Okay, we're living longer with HIV, but HIV is alive and well. Okay, so for everybody, particular people of faith, you know, we just didn't talk about sex in church. Y'all know we didn't talk about sex in church. We still really don't talk a lot about, but my pastor does, so I really like that. Pastor Carter talks about sex in church. But as I was coming through life, we just didn't even have those conversations, because a lot of conversation we thought it had to be held in a faith-based kind of setting. Right. So we never did that. HIV is alive and well. And if your daughter comes home with a pregnancy, honey, that's the best thing she could come home after sex. She can come home with some things that she cannot shake. So I have to tell girls, you know, this thing is going to go to prom with you. It's going to show up with you on your wedding day. Yes, it is. It's going to the movies with you. It goes to church with you when you're 40. It's just going to still be there because it's called a virus. You want to talk about those viruses? You want to talk about all the ages, hepatitis? You want to talk about HIV?
Right.
You want to talk about HPV? Do y'all even know what HPV is? Do you know how it's affecting our teens? Do you know that teens could get cancer from that? I hear a lot of people saying that they have cervical cancer. Okay, cervical cancer, HPV. 99% of cervical cancer comes from HPV. A lot of people don't know that. So all cancers are not just cancer. Where did the cancer come from?
We are predisposed to disease when we have opened our bodies. Listen, Gary, honey, I know what I know. I absolutely know. He said, I've lived through the HIV/AIDS catastrophe my whole life. And you know why, Gary? You know
Nobody's
why?
talking about
Because
it.
nobody wants to talk about
Nobody.
it. So yes, I love talking about motivation. Yes, I love talking about empowerment. Yes, I love ministering about confidence. But tonight, I wanted to have a serious conversation that could actually save a life, that could restore confidence and help us raise teens that don't have to carry the same burdens, the same troubles, the same crazy that we had to carry. I don't believe that every generation has to go through the same trauma.
Oh,
We
absolutely.
don't have to go through the same
Absolutely
trauma.
not. There's too much information out there, but we're not looking for that information because, and this is, I have one of my themes is I'm in control.
Yes.
And so for women out there, it's time for us to take control. Take control of your own sexual health. I know this is not going to go over well with everyone because I know that you're in a great relationship. You've been married. Your husband is wonderful. But you don't know anyone's sexual behavior when they're not in your presence. So when you have your annual, we go get the mammograms at a certain age.
Right.
We make sure we go to see our gynecologists.
Our breast
We
exams.
do, and we think when we're going, we have an STD test. No, ma'am. You have to ask for that. So I need you to tell them to run the panel.
Right.
Run that STD panel because you know what you've been doing. But you don't know what anybody else, and I'm not trying to cause speculation,
right,
or anything.
And we're not sowing seeds of doubt.
We're not sowing seed of doubt,
right?
But I have.
But
too
take
many,
control.
You got to take control. What is it going to hurt you? If nothing comes back, that's great. It's a good day. But if something does come up, don't you want to know about it earlier? It's your body. You should know what's going on in your body. And so as we get into those relationships, we become just very vulnerable to that. Like we got to have babies and all those times. So you're not thinking about things like that. Unfortunately, there have been some missteps in life. We've seen it in our family. We've seen it in our places of worship.
Right.
We've seen it in our schools. So it doesn't mean just because we see or think someone is faithful that they haven't had a misstep. So just in case, these are just every year when you see your gynecologist, tell her, run that sexual STD panel.
Right.
It's going to cost you a little extra, but it's worth your while. It's okay.
I really want us to start talking about this more. I really want, I love it, Janae. Janae put up the hashtag, I'm in control.
Know your status.
Know your status. HIV, unfortunately, and this is why I love working with you on HIV/AIDS awareness. HIV does not have to exist.
It doesn't. We can end HIV. We can end AIDS.
Does not have to exist.
Not have to exist.
But a part of the reason why it does exist is because we're not talking about it. We're not raising awareness.
And can I say this?
Yes.
Look at the two of us. Look at me. Look at her. We are the new faces of HIV. Women of color. Women of color.
The numbers are rising.
The numbers actually coming down.
Oh, good.
Because we're bringing more awareness, so the numbers are coming down just a little bit, and I think that's what's happening. Is people like, oh, it's gone. It is not gone.
So you're saying that women who identify as heterosexual women
Absolutely.
of color,
Absolutely.
have what? You tell me.
I'm telling you that we have HIV. That's what we have. So we have more sometimes people who just say, I'm not, I'm just having fun. So they're having multiple partner sex. And they don't think about different things like that. and we don't know anyone's sexual behavior. So if we know who we are,
Right.
and we're sleeping with someone else, but we don't know what they're doing, and now we're contracting this disease, and we're the last to know.
Right.
Like, we're the last to know. So with STDs, and we'll get off of this one, but with STDs, guys typically know more. Most people are asymptomatic, no signs, no symptoms, but you got something, right? But guys typically know. They know if there's some gonorrhea, some chlamydia, stuff like that going on. But we have a lot of women who can't have children. Not all women, this is their issue. But a lot of sterility comes from sexually transmitted infections. You got to know your partner's history, and you have to take control of your own sexual health. So we have to pass that down to our daughters as well. So she needs to know, what is her reproductive system?
Okay.
Why? Okay, so you tell her to comb her hair, right? Make sure when she gets older, make sure you got some lipstick on, your eyes. We read about all of this, but we're not telling anybody to how to take care of the things, the pieces she cannot see.
I wonder what girls would do. I wonder what teens would do if they understood that the consequence of being irresponsible while adulting could be sterility.
Oh, well,
I wonder. See, this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about getting beyond just the don't do it. I'm talking about getting beyond just the directive that June talked about, the list of chores that you need to accomplish when you come in the door. What I'm talking about is having a real conversation. I'm talking about building bridges, letting kids know you so that you really can develop and empower them into being the powerful young people that we know they can be. And yes, Gary, and Cherie says, well, protect yourself. Diseases don't discriminate, whether you're poor, black, white, male, female.
Gary, I just love you.
Know your status.
Know your status.
Okay, so hold on. Someone said a moment ago that you need to be in schools. And you are in schools, and you need to mentor, and you do mentor. So before we wrap up, I do want if folks want you to come to their schools or come to their churches or come to their Saturday evening conversations with a group of teens in a room.
You can find me everywhere.
How do they find you?
You can find me everywhere. My social media presence is everywhere. On Twitter, I'm on Facebook. I think it's June Evans, June Speaks. You can always get me there. I have a website, juneevans.com. It's on reconstruction, but I got it up there. Treasured Ladies Club is my girls mentoring club for those who may want to start a chapter. We are developing a DFW chapter because I have girls that want to come from all parts of the Metroplex, and maybe we don't connect in their schools, but they want to be a part. So we have created a Dallas-Fort Worth Treasured Ladies Club. So treasuredladiesclub.org is that's my life work right
and
there.
June Speaks.
And juneevans.com, and that's where you can book me. And then also I have a little book called I Treasure Me. And that's for teen girls. And I wrote a 31-day devotional for teen girls. And the purpose of that was to do exactly what we're talking about. I wanted her to start debriefing her day. So she has to have a morning selfie.
Yes.
And that's a conversation with herself. And so affirmation, I think this is something I really want parents to understand, is understand and know your children's love languages. Know if they need affirmation. Know that. It's okay to tell them they're pretty. Don't say, girl, you should not need affirmation. Some people do, and it's okay. Tell them they're pretty. Tell them their hair is nice. Tell them you love their eyes. They have to get up and affirm that about themselves. So many girls wake up in the morning and do not love themselves. They don't like themselves. They're saying, what's wrong with me? I'm too short. I'm too heavy. I'm too thin, right? I'm too dark. I'm too light. I got too many freckles. And so India Reed tried to help us out years and years ago. I'm not the average girl in the video. My worth doesn't come from this. I just got to love me unconditionally. I am me, and it's okay. So for that, I treasure me. And when you start treasuring yourself, you don't give yourself away. Susan Taylor said it best. She said, give yourself to yourself before you give yourself away. She coined that phrase, and that's what I tell girls to this day. Susan, she taught me that. Give yourself to yourself before you give yourself away. So how am I going to know? How am I going to know really who I'm at? At 18, I was parenting at 17. I did 30 years uninterrupted, no break. When did I have time to find me?
Right.
I lost me at 17.
Right.
I had to come back and revisit
Right.
who is June Evans?
Right.
What do I like?
Right.
Because it was all about the children and, give them children and make sure they're taken care of.
Right.
So our girls have to have an opportunity to fully develop sexually, mentally, emotionally,
Personally,
and personally,
intellectually.
They have to do
all of it
before they give themselves away. So, but if you start having these greater conversations, can I say this? Tell them what expectations. When can they date? They want to know. The second thing is, outside of my mom, having, I love my parents, but I don't talk to them, is boys. Can we please tell them when they can date?
Have the conversation.
Stop parenting out of fear.
Right.
Oh, I'm afraid this is going to happen. I'm afraid that's going to happen. Well, if you've educated her, right?
Right.
And I'm just talking about girls today. We haven't even jumped on the guys because we got too much going on over there. That's a whole nother conversation.
So much to talk
I'm just talking about girls. But if you would just educate her, then when she does get in that car, you know that she's ready.
Now, hold on, June. I want to interject another time because I want to address something that I'm looking at on my screen. For Stephanie and for anyone who feels like Stephanie. First of all, Stephanie, we're going to send you lots of kisses and lots of hugs right now. Now, I believe that hugs heal, so I am truly sending you a healing hug because I think Stephanie speaks the sentiments of so many people. Stephanie said, how do I pass all of this empowerment that we're talking about on to someone else and I don't feel it myself? You talked about treasuring you.
You gotta treasure
And when you said it, you were talking about treasuring teens.
That's right.
But guess what? It all starts with you.
Yeah.
Right? It all starts with you. You have to treasure you. And that's why my whole mission, and in so many ways, our whole mission is one of empowerment. That we have to truly see ourselves. Anything that makes you feel less than, right? Anything, whatever that thing is that makes you feel less than, that is not of God. We have to identify whose voice is in our ear. And if that voice in your ear is a negative voice, a voice that minimizes you, a voice that makes you feel small, then I want you to take my scripture to heart. My scripture is 1 John 4:4. Greater is he that lives in me than he that's in the world. Now, if you're a person of faith, I imagine that you may have said that over and over. You may have learned that even as a child, but I want you to accept that and hear that on a whole different level tonight. I want you to hear it not just in your ears, but I want you to hear it in your heart. I want you to hear it in your soul. I want you to hear it in your spirit, because whatever it is that makes you feel minimized, if you truly hear that the greater one lives inside you, then you're reminded that there's no obstacle. Stephanie, listen, there is nothing that you could experience in life that is greater than the greatness of our God. I was talking to someone on Sunday via text, and we just had such a beautiful conversation. And he was talking to me about perspective and the importance of perspective. And we just went back and forth, talking about the goodness of the Lord. And I love the fact that he emphasized the word perspective, because when we get perspective, let me tell you something. June and I are water babies. We're both born in June. I don't know if that has something to do with it, but we love the water. We love being on the beach.
We love a good old beach.
And I think one of the reasons why we love the beach is because when you're at the beach, you can see the horizon, and nothing is bigger than anything God created. Nothing. As far as your eyes can see, all you see is God's creation. What am I talking about? I'm talking about perspective. Many times in our lives, what we've done is we have made whatever this is. And guess what? I'm not just talking about things external. I'm talking about things on the inside. I'm talking about our inadequacies. I'm talking about our lack of confidence. I'm talking about our memories. Your memories are not bigger than God.
But I have a question. You just said this a moment ago. We were talking about something, because I'm here now because we are not perfect.
Right. But
But
we're excellent.
We're excellent.
That's right.
There is a difference. So because that sound wasn't going to come right, I jumped in my car, drove an hour, and I was like, this is going to happen, and we're going to do it tonight, and it's going to be great. So stop thinking you have to be perfect.
Right.
No one is perfect.
No one is perfect.
Everyone makes a mistake. The Bible is
filled
with people who made mistakes and did greater works.
That's right.
And that's what he promised us. We would do greater. So not loving yourself, you have to wake up in the morning.
Right.
And just start with one. Find one thing that you really love about you.
Right.
One. It doesn't matter if nobody else has ever told you they love you. It doesn't matter by that. You wake up in the morning and you say, I love me.
Right.
And that's what we've been taught as women. She thinks she all that. I am.
All that.
I am. I'm all that.
Right.
I love me.
I should do.
And then let me find the things that I love about me. I love my eyes.
Yes.
I love my wig.
Yes.
I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You start thinking about the things that you love about yourself.
Yes.
And so you just start saying, I love me. If you can't say anything else for those out there who are struggling with doubt,
right?
You know, because things haven't happened in your life,
right?
We cannot build greater girls when we're still broken our own selves.
Right.
It is time, ladies, to heal. Now, some of this you cannot do by yourself.
Yes.
Some of this you cannot wear out a good old girlfriend. Like she my good old girlfriend. Cassandra Cleveland Rock, that's my good old girlfriend. Like we can talk. But sometimes I'm gonna need to go see a therapist.
Right.
I need to go see Natalie Dyer.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
I need to go see Chandria.
Right.
I need to have a conversation. I need to have a medical perspective, somebody else to come in, and they can let me sit on we don't sit on couches anymore, but they can listen to me and give me antidotes of things how I can begin to heal.
Right.
So sometimes you need to debrief your life with someone else, and not all the time that may be the pastor of your church. Maybe they don't have that. They're going to say, now, I think you're going to need to go over here because mental illness is wrong.
Yes.
Sadness and depression is real, y'all. Our girls are dealing with that. So if you're dealing with comparison, think about what this is doing where they're just all night long.
Right. Listening to someone else
or watching someone else and thinking that they're missing out. It is
and comparing themselves to who's here. Right.
And that's so not realistic.
All right. So listen, here's the deal. The bottom line is I love your book. I love that your book is I Treasure Me.
I treasure
because
me.
That's a message for greater girls. That's a message for greater teens. And guess what, adults? That's a message for us. So if we want to be greater, why don't we start with treasuring? And I love that it's not like just I love me or I like me or I think I'm great, but you chose such a beautiful word. I treasure.
I treasure.
Right?
I treasure me.
Right.
Because we have to begin with ourselves. So they have to wake up and do a morning selfie and just do some affirmation over themselves.
To treasure themselves.
To treasure them. So they have to speak an affirmation over themselves. They have to talk about what was in their dreams. What are they dreaming about?
Right.
And then, we give them something like a scripture, something to read for the day. And when they come home, when I say give them some time, they have to debrief their day.
Right.
What went right?
Right.
What went wrong?
And let me tell you
don't carry that anger into tomorrow.
Let me tell you what's so beautiful about that. The prescription that June just gave is an amazing prescription, not just for a teen, but also for us. To wake up intentionally, to wake up truly focused on how we can be our best today, to focus on scripture, to focus on words of affirmation, and then to debrief our days. You know what I always say, there's never enough time for a greater conversation. So why don't we close this way? Well, can we pray?
We can absolutely pray.
Let's do that.
And before I pray, again, to every pastor, to every youth worker, to every educator, to every parent, to every auntie, to every nana, grandmother, grandfather, Gary, I'm sure you're out there mentoring somebody too.
Right.
You don't have
to
children.
Every Gary.
To every Gary. We appreciate you. You're doing the best you can. But you know what? It's time for us to do greater.
Right.
Let's build this bridge for our kids. Let's get rid of this generational gap, y'all. It's got to go.
Right.
And before I pray, I would say this. Last week, was it last week? Maybe, I think this past Sunday was Women's Day, but Pastor Carter talked about not judging.
Yes.
let's stop judging. And we have a podcast my family did, where we did a little podcast with my son, and my son said something that I would have gave him a side eye on before, all of us was in the room, and I said, you know what, Pastor Carter just told me, drop the bone. Don't stop judging. Build a relationship with your family and with your children, and let them be who they are. you know they're not themselves sometimes, because they think that they have to perform, and we don't like to have to perform for anyone else. We don't like that performance. They don't have to perform. Let them be who they are. Of course, give them guidance. Of course, tell them the values of your home. Of course, teach them how to pray. We're about to pray. Do you know children don't know how to pray? Some of them don't even know the Lord's Prayer. They don't know. They're in a war zone. People are coming in schools, shooting up schools, y'all. People going to events. They're killing our babies. So they need to know a safe place. Teach them exit strategies. We got to build greater kids through greater conversations. Okay?
That's it.
So,
dear God, we just thank you so much, because you're amazing, you're powerful, you're wonderful. For every single person who watched live, for every person who watched real time, for every person who watches the replay, we pray a greater prayer over each and every one of them, a blessing over each and every one of them, a covering over each and every one of them. God, I ask that you would bless everyone watching, bless their children, bless the seed of the righteous, bless every child that's impacted, whether they are our natural children, our adopted children, the children of the village, our nieces, our nephews, our grandchildren. God, let this message transfer into their hearts, into communities, into churches. It's time for a greater conversation. God, help us to build a bridge and empower greater teens, greater girls, greater kids, greater little ones like never before.
Like never before. And Father, I just pray for every single parent that's doing the best that they can.
Yes.
Lord, we just thank you for them, that they will not leave this conversation feeling bad about anything that we send, but feeling empowered.
Yes.
Fathers, for those who do not know how to begin a relationship with their daughters, Lord, teach them thy ways. Just start. It just take a start. Take them out. Take them out for lunch. Treat them. You know what? Sometimes they're not going to allow us to come up to them all the time. I call it Teenage Planet. So sometimes they invite you to Teenage Planet, and on that day, go with them. And then they just lower you back down, and then they level set you, say, just go back to your room. So it's okay. So Lord, help us to be flexible when raising our children and our nieces, Lord Jesus. Let them know that they really can come to us about anything, and then give them permission to have that conversation with someone else that's going to bring them back to us.
Thank you, Lord.
Because they may not tell us everything.
Right.
So we thank you, Lord Jesus. Open up our hearts, that we will see our children's hearts. Bring the hearts of the father and the mothers back to their children, and the heart of the children back to their parents, Father.
Lord. Yes, Lord.
This begins at home. It's not the teacher's job. It's not the principal's job. It's not the president's job. It's not the pastor's job. We're just extensions of family. It starts in the home.
Yes, Lord.
So, Lord, let us spend more time with you.
Help us.
Let us feel your heartbeat. Let us wake up in the morning to give directives on how to move along with our children.
Teach us your
Lord
ways.
Jesus, don't let nothing come in our house that we don't see ourselves first.
You,
Lord, you speak to us. Let our ears become open to you. Lord, help us to become more disciplined. Help us to put down our phones. Help us to spend more time with our family and our children. Help us to learn who we're raising in that house. Ask the Lord, who am I raising? Who is this child? Help us to identify their gifts, their talents, in the name of Jesus. Holy Spirit, make it so, and so it is.
Thank you, Lord.
Jesus'
Thank
name.
you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. Share it, watch it again. Share it, watch it again. Share it, watch it again. And I'll see you next time on Greater Conversations.